Welcome back to The Line. University of New Mexico President Robert Frank announced at a press conference this week that UNM will partner with global research firm Battelle, the Boeing Company, the University of Texas System, and the Texas A&M University System to all bid jointly to manage the Sandia National Laboratories. Lockheed Martin, which currently operates Sandia, is also expected to submit a bid. Janice, interesting strategic move here. When we first heard the news that UNM was interested in the bid, I think a lot of our first question was, can these people actually run this whole thing by themselves? But now they don't have to. They have this strategic partnership. Does this make more sense to you when you look at it this way?
Well, I think it's a good thing that the university is doing this. This is not their first time.
Right.
The last time it was almost bid, UNM was teaming with other people. The University of Texas was actually with a different team.
Right.
And what you are seeing is the university trying to take advantage of some things that are very important, but it is driven by the NNSA and the way that the RFPs are written. And so for any one entity to go in without some teaming, they can't make all the check marks. But it does make me ask, so which parts will the University of New Mexico get? And this is very competitive. The bids are very expensive.
Right.
The winning team will probably spend well above $1 million to do this bid, just to do the bid. But is it an interesting team? So my question then comes is, where was our congressional delegation and what is in that RFP that says you have to engage more in New Mexico? And I'm not hearing it.
Well, I have heard a little bit. Michelle Lujan Grisham has come out and said, that she's been pushing for that, and she's looking to. She was encouraged. I think she said.
Encouraging, but it's different than being in the RFP.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And I want it in the RFP because I want them to respond to that.
Right.
And I think she said, she also did say, if helping out small businesses is not in the RFP, we're going to make sure we've got some legislation addressing that, right?
And I think we see Sandia is an important economic driver for this part of the state, no matter who's in charge. But what we're starting to see is more conversation about how much local business is engaged, how much are you spending in the local community, et cetera. And so I think what we're hearing is that regardless of who gets it, the eye is going to be on, what does that do for Albuquerque? What does that do for these?
Well, and all of the quarters or suitors, for lack of a better term, are nonprofit organizations, or they are non-taxable. And so the possibility of New Mexico getting any of the $250 million is gone. I mean, because, based on who they choose. Now, I don't think a for-profit company is going to come in. Now, there are other ways to make that up as far as with these community programs and things of that nature, but the labs, whoever gets that contract, has to do a better job of connecting with the public and connecting with the community and showing that they're engaged. Our own surveys have shown that their Sandia National Labs alone has decreased in favorability by 10% over the last 6 years.
Wow.
And that's pretty sizable in a place like Albuquerque and Los Alamos. It's a statewide survey, but they're just not engaging like they used to.
Was there a common thread that drove that 10% drop?
I think it's there's not in the survey. It's just all it was top of mind awareness.
Gotcha.
And I don't think though to that point that Sandia is as involved today as they have been in previous years.
Gotcha.
Well, I think that's right, and I think one of the sad things, and one of the things that Sandia suffers from is stovepipe mentality, and anybody who's worked around it knows that is a problem. And the really sad part of that is the research and the technology that is being developed that comes from here that is applied to many things. Our own community doesn't know about it. How sad is that?
Oh, I'll add to that. Or we don't capture it. Is this a better way to capture it now that we have UNM in the picture, however? Are we in a better position to take that kind of research stuff and...
So one of my questions is, so for intellectual property and also for grants at the university, UNM's rates are extremely high and their intellectual property process is much more convoluted than Sandia is. So I want to know how this is going to work.
That's an interesting point.
Sandia hires UNM graduates, but 2,400 UNM graduates are there. And looking at the RFP, we want to focus on STEM. We want to focus on bringing universities together. That's what this conglomerate, this group of five is going to do. And I think they are concerned about retaining their employees and recruiting their employees. Again, what better way to be using than than all of these universities. So I think I think it's a great idea. I hope it's a win-win.
Oh, I hope so too. And one of the things that I look at for Sandia in itself and how we look at our state, one of the real challenges has been the number of PhD candidates that Sandia cannot hire because our own citizens are not striving to that level. And I assure you, at a research laboratory like Sandia Labs, you need a PhD. That's what you need. And our own citizens are not going there. So it puts them really in a bind, and we ought to talk about that some more.
Let me circle back to this idea of Sandia as an economic driver here locally. You guys mentioned that up top here. They spend a lot of money locally. My question at the table is, are you satisfied with that number? Could it be more? You know, just anecdotally what you hear from the street and other businesses. From what I glean is, if you're in the Sandia family, it can work out quite well, but it's hard to crack.
It is.
It's a very hard thing to get your business in there. What's your sense of that?
Well,
Tim?
I've cracked it, and I'm probably going to be cracked out as a result of my comments today. But all kidding aside.
No.
But you know, one of the things the Labs has done is, you know, in lieu of paying taxes, they invest money back into the community through small businesses and contractors. I think they need to do a much better job of sharing that particular story, because it is equal. $250 million is about the same amount of New Mexico gross receipts tax that they would be paying. So, you know, the amount of money, though, that goes back into the state coffers as a result is much less, but the level of investment is there. They just need to do a better job in sharing it. And that's not just not just Sandia, but also Los Alamos.
Well, and in defense of both of those labs, but Sandia in particular, to suggest that they don't pay taxes, that is not true. They have a special tax, but they also reinvest, and it was quite a stir when Los Alamos actually changed its contract and they were responsible for gross receipts. But it's not the same level as everybody else's, I can assure you of that.
Just to backtrack on some of the basics, it's a 5-year deal if won, with an option for 5 more after that. So it's not as if, you know, it's some small deal.
5
This is
years
a
actually
major-
feels like a short period of time to
Right,
me.
Right.
In
exactly.
a
Right.
managerial lifeline, that's like not that long.
Just getting up to speed with everything.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, and I think we can look at Lockheed Martin and see how long they've ended up having their contract. That feels a little bit, you know, a little bit more. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. Rational.
But they had all
perhaps.
those extensions and yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
But and don't forget that as this contract changes, much of the RFP requires that they retain staff as is.
That's right.
So it will not be a wholesale change.
Right.
It will be a very top-level change, but the people who are working there probably are not going
I'm
to
glad
change.
you mentioned that. That was one of the, it's interesting how that was one of the first things they mentioned, Mary, that compensation was going to stay the same. Basically saying to everybody, just
Please don't leave.
Don't leave. Right,
Don't
exactly.
leave.
Exactly right. That's
Don't
leave.
exactly right.
Exactly.
Please don't leave. But
Right.
I think by bringing in Boeing, who I think is on a par with Lockheed, I think that puts UNM on even footing, and I think also perhaps will make it's a 5-year contract
Sure.
maybe. Well, you guys are putting so much investment in
right.
it. All right, we're going to give you the edge, which
right.
they've been giving Lockheed the edge too. So it's kind of like let's.
And finally, the
help out.
prestige.
Exactly.
You know, it's a national laboratory. I mean,
Right.
you know, you got to be able to do these things.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Great
That's all the
opportunity.
time we have for this week. Join us online for our conversation this week about renovating old theaters in rural New Mexico and allegations that some people are taking advantage of service animal certifications to take their pets places. I'm Gene Grant. Thanks for joining us this week for New Mexico in Focus. As always, we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged. We'll see you next week in Focus.
Funding for New Mexico in Focus provided by the McCune Charitable Foundation and the Nalita E. Walker Fund for KNME-TV, the KNME-TV Endowment Fund, and viewers like you.